International Dance Day, Tony. What you got for us?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. Ready, boys? Hit it! Penguin dance. Now to the right and back to the middle and slow it down and
You look
speed
rusty
it up.
to me. You look very rusty.
I haven't done it in a while.
Aren't there domestic penguins? Aren't there penguins? Isn't that what the UP stands for? Upper Penguin?
No, it stands for Upper Peninsula. There are no domestic penguins in the United States.
I don't believe that.
There are domestic penguins in Canada like Sidney Crosby, but none in the United States. No,
okay.
That's the way it goes. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Kevin Durant is hot, the Greek Freak is not, and Joe Flacco has reason to be steamed. But we begin today with Game 1 of the Golden State-Houston series, a great game that the Warriors won late. After the game, Houston complained that the referees tilted the playing field by not calling fouls on the Warriors when James Harden had contact after his shot attempts, getting hit on his landings. Wilbon, you were there. Are the Rockets right to be upset with the officiating?
Tony, I don't know. I'm not going to make up a phony answer for this because this is a competition going on, and I'm covering it. And I think that there are times where Harden floated 3 feet forward, as pointed out to me by a couple of Warriors players after the game, and then he doesn't get that airspace. But there are times where Harden went up and down and maybe somebody slid into his airspace and that could be called. Now, I know the 2-minute report said that there were 3 calls that went against, when it went against Houston that should have gone in Houston's favor. And that's what happens in games. Some go against you and you're upset. Some go for you. This whole thing about airspace, Tony, the postgame, and I told you this on your podcast this morning, the postgame was more contentious than the game because the Rockets are legitimately upset. I mean, they're not faking this, Tony. They're not putting on. They're upset. But also, New York is a little upset now that the Rockets have complained so much in their opinion. So I don't know how this is going to play out. I mean, we got an off day here. It's very contentious again. What did you see as you were watching this and hearing the broadcast?
I watched the game. I loved the game. I think that the calls that they're talking about were non-essential. Look, here's what I'm going to say. In every single game, there's 10 to 15 calls that aren't good. All right, in every single game.
In every
Coaches
game,
know that. Players know that.
Right.
I'm sick of James Harden shooting 9 for 27 and thinking he got hosed because when he jumped forward and there's contact, he didn't go to the line. He lives on the line. He's a great scorer who lives on the line. I've watched this for years with Phil Jackson, with Pat Riley, to influence referees into a
back
call.
and forth on the off day.
Into a call the next time. I love the game. The thing I would point out that was most important to me, Mike, at the end of the game, the most important and greatest players on Houston, James Harden was out of bounds at one point, and it was a turnover.
He might have gotten pushed there.
Chris Paul was tossed. He wasn't on the court. Maybe his hamstring was fine, but he wasn't on the court. And the great players on the other side, Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Steph Curry made a three that changed the entire game. They came through.
But, Tony, I thought yesterday had the intensity of a Game 5.
Great game.
In the playoffs. And this is the
second
round series.
Like this. I'd watch them all.
They reached a great – Steve Kerr said that. He said this is a championship level of competition, and it was that. And I hope the officiating doesn't sort of overshadow everything. I mean, the Rockets –
they won.
They say Steph Curry should have fouled out. And the 2-minute warning sort of substantiates that.
The Rockets whine. That's
they
what they
a lot.
do.
They whined
That's what they
too
do.
much yesterday.
They prepare sheets of paper saying how they got hosed.
One thing even the Rockets are impressed with, Tony, is Kevin Durant's brilliance of late. In his last 5 games, Durant has scored 38, 33, 45, 50, and 35 for an average of 40.2. Some clueless millennial prisoner of now had the nerve to ask Steve Kerr if he had ever seen anything like Durant's stretch. And Kerr chuckled before invoking the name of his former teammate, whose initials are M and J. Anyway, Durant has been great right up through yesterday, causing some to wonder whether he is now the most valuable Warrior. Tony, is he?
Okay, so my answer depends on the game itself. Kevin Durant is a great player. He is an unguardable player. When you see him take those shots on one leg like a stork, no, he's so big, no one can stop him from shooting. That's how great he is. But there are games where Steph Curry is just as great and is more important in the flow of that game. There are games when Klay Thompson goes for like 30 points in a quarter, and is every bit as important as anybody else. The way that team is constructed, it is so good and so selfless that honestly, Mike, and I'm ducking the question, it doesn't matter who the most valuable player is over some long period of time, because game by game it changes.
Well, Tony, to your point yesterday, Kevin Durant was so great.
Yes.
With the mismatches,
Great.
recognizing them, quickly going to them. He did have that Dirk Nowitzki shot. I know what you're talking about off one leg. It was brilliant. But then, Tony, the last possession, when Mike D'Antoni goes to Nene, because he says to himself, I need some rebounding, I need some size, and automatically it signals to all the Warriors, Tony, who said to themselves in real time, oh my God, D'Antoni's going to do that, because it meant one thing. It meant Steph Curry in pick and roll was going to be confronted by Nene,
and
that ain't going to work.
He hit it.
And he hit the
That's
three.
Right.
I think it was his only three of the half. And so in that moment, the biggest shot of the game was hit by Steph Curry.
That's right.
In that way, not Durant, and they're all
even
great.
Even though for 45 minutes, Steve Kerr has figured out to get the ball to Durant all the time because that will cajole him into shooting more. I want to go to the Michael Jordan thing because, you know, some people get upset if Michael Jordan is in the same sentence with Kevin Durant. But hear this out. Kevin Durant is going to be a free agent. Steve Kerr wants to keep him. If that means making any comparison whatsoever, that's fine to do. Right?
That comparison, yes. But the point is, don't act like you've never seen this. And Durant is on a great stretch right now. By the way, Tony, Doc Rivers put his most annoying defensive player on Kevin Durant.
And it worked for 2 games.
4 or 5 games in that series. Worked twice.
It worked for 2 games. The Boston Celtics scored the most eye-opening win of the first game of the second round, pounding Milwaukee by 22 points in Milwaukee. Giannis Antetokounmpo shot just 7 for 21 and was only 4 for 15 in the paint, where he so often dominates. Wilbon, was this more about what the Celtics did well or what Antetokounmpo did not do?
Neither. It's about what the Bucks do not have. And I had this pointed out to me yesterday by a player in another series who will go nameless, who just said, look, they don't have, meaning Milwaukee, who's their number 2 guy? And you can say, well, Brogdon's out, because that's what I said to this player. Brogdon's out. And he said, okay, Brogdon's a terrific player. But Brogdon is not that caliber all-star where Antetokounmpo can just defer to him for minutes at a time, or that can be their first option for a quarter. It can't be. They don't have that guy. And I think that's what led Paul Pierce, when observing this game, to say on our air yesterday, this series is over. Now, I might not go as far as Paul, but Tony, I had that thought, and I bet you did too. Well, Milwaukee doesn't have that. They've got to acquire or develop it, and they can't do it this week. They can't do it right now.
My comment is just going to be for game 1, because I don't know if this is true about game 2.
Okay.
But the guy sitting on the bench for Boston in a suit outcoached the other guy. Okay? He said, I'm not going to let Antetokounmpo beat me. You got 4 other guys. We'll see if they can beat me. And they couldn't beat him. Now, this could change down the road. I remember what I said on this show a number of times. And all season long, I have said the same thing, that Boston is the team to beat in the East, because Boston has the most offensive diversity in the East. They got more people who can beat you. They got a greater depth of talent. What is dependent is, how is Kyrie Irving feeling that day? Is he going to be sullen, or is he going to be in a great mood?
He ain't going to be sullen now in the playoffs.
Mike, I think what helps them is that the Golden State-Houston series catches everybody's eye to such a degree that the others can sort of just play and not worry about the media or anything else. And Boston, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not doing a Paul Pierce. But they got more options, to your point.
Tony, they do. And look, Middleton is an all-star, but he's not the kind of guy you think of as necessarily the number 2 on a great team. Maybe he can play up to that.
Klay Thompson, who can get you 25 in a quarter.
No, but Tony, he's got to play up to that. And if they can get Brogdon back in there at 80%, they're going to need everything they can get, to your point, to counter what the Celtics have, which is a lot.
If they're ready to play, they're a better team, I think.
That's right. That's right. Tony, to satiate you and allow you to talk about quarterbacks in the wake of the thankfully concluded NFL draft, let's review what happened in Denver. John Elway, who only recently traded for Joe Flacco and said he's just entering his prime, moved up in the draft to select Drew Lock from Missouri in the second round. Elway sounded as if there's no rush at all to play Lock, who can sit and learn from Flacco. But, Tony, how should Flacco feel about another young buck breathing down his neck, just like last year in Baltimore?
So last year it was Lamar Jackson, who is an entirely different kind of quarterback than Joe Flacco. And when Flacco got hurt and Lamar Jackson played well, Flacco had to go because you can't have an offensive line for a running quarterback and an offensive line for a stationary. I mean, it doesn't work. You have a different offense. This is not the same. Drew Lock, to my understanding, is a larger guy and is a deep throwing quarterback. My advice to Joe Flacco is simple. Honestly, put on your big boy pants. Grow up on this.
Yeah,
you were hired to be the starting quarterback. You will be the starting quarterback. If you go 2-6 and they dump you, that's the way it goes. But Flacco will have the opportunity to lead that team, don't you think?
Of course he will.
Yeah.
A few years ago, he won a Super Bowl, and then he didn't do jack.
That's right.
He didn't do anything. He
won
probably right around 50% of his games in Baltimore, which wasn't even good enough to get them back in playoff position to win again. So he's had a great day. You win a Super Bowl, you've had a great career. So go out there and play. You've got a Hall of Fame quarterback, and if you're playing at the level you can play, that Hall of Fame quarterback, John Elway, will see that. Your coaches and players will see that, and they will leave you alone for a while, and then you will go away.
Yeah.
But shut up and play. The whining now out of who gets drafted out of every league about who's behind you, especially the NFL.
Flacco did not whine, and Drew Lock, by the way, dropped a little bit. Let me go to Elway, okay? Because after Peyton Manning left, and you picked up Peyton Manning, got to the Super Bowl twice, Elway has made every conceivable wrong decision at quarterback, the position that he knows best. So at this point, it wouldn't surprise anybody if both Flacco and Lock weren't any good. But if Flacco's good, it's his team for a while.
That's
it is.
Right.
Let's take a break. Coming up, what can the Sixers do about guarding Kawhi?
The same as you and me. That's what they can.
Nothing.
It feels like the Blazers last played, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. Should they be favored when they take the court against the Nuggets tonight?
I've waited for that. Is that tonight?
That's tonight.
Is that on television?
Everywhere in the United States of America.
Wow.
Maybe even in the UP.
Can't wait for that. Questions we actually want to answer. I'm going to read all of them. Here's the first one.
Let's go.
What should the Sixers do about guarding Kawhi?
Put Jimmy Butler on him. And I'm not saying that that's going to result in 4 wins, but Jimmy Butler has successfully been in the business of trying to guard LeBron James. And he had as much success. Nobody's had a ton. He's LeBron James. But Jimmy Butler's record against LeBron in all these years, like 8 years plus, is almost 500, right around 500. You got to put him on Kawhi. I don't care if he was 5 for 6 yesterday against Jimmy Butler. He might miss 5 of the next 6. Jimmy Butler is your answer. You cannot let Kawhi just go off, and you also can't just double him and turn him into a playmaker. You got a guy, Jimmy Butler, who's going to be a free agent. Use him now while you got him, and he can do more effectively this task than anybody.
This is a fantastic answer by you. The actual answer is you can't do anything about Kawhi Leonard because he's better than everybody else on either team. That is established fact. Jimmy Butler, you say, I don't care if Kawhi was 5 of 6 against him. Well, you got to care if he's 5 of 6 against him.
No, you don't.
Tobias Harris can't guard him. Ben Simmons can't guard him. Nobody can guard Kawhi Leonard.
Well, just give up and go home and go to your beach house in Delaware and play golf.
Kawhi Leonard has a ring, and Kawhi Leonard was a Finals MVP. And the fact of the matter is that you can't guard. Guard everybody else better. And don't worry about him so much.
I don't know about that. Those other guys are all-stars, too.
The Nuggets are the higher seed, but do you favor them over the Blazers?
Tony, this is tough. I would not have, a week ago, before Ennis Cantor suffered at least a partially separated shoulder, I would have taken the Blazers. You know, even without Nurkic, I would have taken them because Cantor's been a really suitable replacement. He doesn't play much defense, but he can score and he can rebound in traffic. He can do those 2 things. But now that Cantor's hurt, the strength of the Nuggets, the best player they have is Jokic. And now you have to go up against him with no bigs. Who are they going to bring in? Bill Walton for a few minutes in Portland? So I think I have to go with Denver. I think I have to.
This series is being played in the land of the time forgot. Nobody cares about this series. This is the series. Yeah, you care. This is the series that's going to be on True TV. It is dead fourth in the 4 series that are out there now. Everything starts late. I'm sure Damian Lillard is a great guy. I'm sure Jokic, I'm sure he's good to the
That's
paper
great.
boy.
Thanks for paying attention.
Nobody cares about this one.
I know. Let's go back to the NFL draft. Let's do that.
Nobody cares about
That's
that
what you want to do.
or this. Do you think Josh Rosen feels as magnanimous as he appears in his farewell video?
I don't know, because I don't know Josh Rosen. In his farewell video, he thanked everybody. I mean, he said all the right stuff. He sounded sincere. He thanked the fans. He thanked the fan base. He said he's got a nice apartment in Old Town. If, his replacement, of course, wants to have access to new housing. So he said all of the right things, Tony, and this is great. But, he's gone now. I guess this is the way to go. He wasn't churlish. He didn't say bad things on the way out the door. Good for him.
I don't care if he didn't mean a word of it. I don't care if it was completely scripted for him. The delivery was great. You rarely see this. What did Mr. Big Stuff say on the way out of Pittsburgh? Did he thank a whole lot of people? No, Josh Rosen thanked people. This is why I'm rooting for him now. He had no chance there. You don't draft somebody overall number 1 year after you drafted that guy doesn't start anymore. So good for Josh Rosen. I hope he's a big hit in Miami. Very nice gesture on his part.
Has anybody been a big hit in Miami for a while with that football team?
Has Chris Beard, Cutler, has Chris Beard earned the 3rd highest salary among college basketball coaches?
Well, so Beard has now been given this extension after going to the Elite Eight a year ago in the final game earlier this month. But there's some guys, Tony, he's behind now only Coach K and Coach Cal when it comes to salary. That means he's ahead of people like Bill Self, Roy Williams, Jay Wright, Tom Izzo, Boeheim. These are people with championship pedigrees. He's younger. He's the hot coach. He's got a campus and a president where they are behind him.
Yeah.
And if you have that, yes, you're worth it because you can negotiate it.
Can I ask you one simple question? What? How many rings does he have at the moment?
I just told you none. Elite
0.
Eight in a final game appearance.
Right, 0. Okay, and you listed all the other. There's one other guy, Tubby Smith, back in the game, and he's got
Tubby
a championship.
Smith, that's
right. Jim Calhoun's got a few, and he's coaching D3 somewhere. Here's the point. I don't begrudge him any of his money.
Sounds like it.
Texas Tech is a tough place to be a great basketball coach. But please don't tell me that he's 3rd. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous.
Why not? He's 3rd. No, that's what he is.
It's not, no, he shouldn't be 3rd. He has no rings. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come, what should Cam Newton think about the Panthers drafting a quarterback, which seems to be the